The galactic station terminus buzzed with the usual cacophony of 100 different species conducting business, trade, and diplomacy. Ambassador Zephyr adjusted his ceremonial robes as he walked through the main concourse, his four eyes scanning the diverse crowd. The hegemony had spent centuries building this marvel of interspecies cooperation, and stations like Terminus represented the pinnacle of civilized society. At least that's what he had believed until today. In the shadow of a massive support pillar, barely visible to the passing crowds, huddled a small figure. Zaraka pressed herself against the cold metal, her pale blue skin nearly translucent from malnutrition. Her species, the Veltar, were known throughout the galaxy for their mathematical genius and delicate constitutions. What they were not known for was begging. "Please," she whispered to a passing Krellian merchant, her voice barely audible above the station's ambient noise. "I haven't eaten in 3 days. Just a few credits for some protein paste." The merchant's tentacles writhed in what Zephyr recognized as disgust. "Filthy Veltar scum. Your people lost the war. Deal with the consequences." The Krellian kicked a small container toward her feet, not food, but garbage from his meal. Zaraka's large, multifaceted eyes filled with what humans might call tears, though her species expressed sorrow differently. The liquid that leaked from her ocular membranes was a deeper blue than her skin, and it left crystalline traces as it dried. Zephyr watched in fascination as more beings passed her by. A group of hegemony officials in their pristine uniforms stepped over her outstretched hand without acknowledgement. Several other species, Argonians, Tektites, even normally compassionate ethereals, either ignored her completely or made derisive comments about war criminals and genetic inferiors. The Veltar had indeed lost a war, Zephyr recalled. Their homeworld had been glassed just months ago after they refused to submit to hegemony taxation policies. The survivors were scattered across the galaxy as refugees with no legal status and no protection under galactic law. They were, effectively, non-persons. "Look at that pathetic creature," laughed the hegemony officer to his companion. "The mighty Veltar mathematicians reduced to begging like animals. Perhaps they should have calculated the odds of victory before challenging us." His companion, a sleek Viridian with scales that shifted color with emotion, joined in the cruel laughter. "I heard they eat their own dead when they're desperate enough. Maybe we should watch and see if this one starts gnawing on herself." Zaraka curled deeper into herself, her body trembling not just from hunger, but from the weight of their mockery. Her people had once been proud, their minds capable of calculations that could predict stellar drift and quantum fluctuations. Now, she couldn't even calculate when her next meal might come. Then the crowd parted slightly, and a new figure approached. He was human, a species that Zephyr found perpetually puzzling. Humans were relative newcomers to the galactic community, having achieved faster-than-light travel only a few decades ago. They were neither the strongest nor the smartest species in the hegemony, and their planet was considered a backwater world by most civilized standards. Yet something about them consistently defied conventional wisdom. This particular human was unremarkable by his species standards. Medium height, brown hair began to gray at the temples, wearing the simple blue jumpsuit of a maintenance worker. His name tag read Marcus Chun. He carried a metal lunch container and a thermos, the kind that suggested he worked long shifts in the station's lower levels. Marcus stopped directly in front of Zaraka, while the crowd continued to flow around them like water around stones. "Hey there," he said quietly, his voice cutting through the ambient noise without being loud. "You look hungry." Zaraka looked up at him with surprise. In 3 days of begging, no one had spoken to her directly except to insult or threaten her. Yes," she managed. "I am very hungry." The hegemony officer who had been laughing earlier noticed the interaction and called out, "Human, don't waste your resources on that creature. It's just a Veltar refugee. They're not worth the effort." Marcus turned to look at the officer with an expression that Zephyr couldn't quite interpret. It wasn't anger, exactly, but something cooler and more dangerous. I didn't ask for your opinion, Marcus said simply. The officer's face flushed with indignation. Do you know who I am? I am Sub-Commander Kellix of the Hegemony Fleet. You will show proper respect. And I'm Marcus Chun, Maintenance Engineer, 3rd Shift, Marcus replied, turning back to Zaraka. Come on, kid. Come eat with me? He offered her his hand. After a moment's hesitation, she took it, her 3-finger grip surprisingly strong, despite her weakened state. Sub-Commander Kellix sputtered with rage. That creature is a war criminal. Its species threatened the stability of the entire hegemony. Marcus helped Zaraka to her feet, steadying her when she swayed from weakness. She looks like a kid who's hungry to me. Can't be more than, 16 in human years. 14 of your years, Zaraka whispered. 14, Marcus's jaw tightened. A 14-year-old kid, and you're calling her a war criminal. He looked back at Kellix with that same dangerous calm. Tell me, Sub-Commander, what war crimes did she commit exactly? Launch some missiles? Command a fleet? Or was her big crime being born Veltar? Kellix's face turned an even deeper shade of purple. The sins of the species are not the sins of a child. Marcus cut him off. Maybe that's how your people do things, but where I come from, we don't let kids starve because we're mad at their parents. He guided Zaraka toward a quiet alcove with a few maintenance tables and chairs. The crowd followed at a distance, drawn by the unprecedented sight of someone defying a hegemony officer so casually. Marcus opened his lunch container, revealing what appeared to be several sandwiches, some fruit, and a selection of snacks. My wife always packs too much food, he said conversationally, though Zephyr suspected this might not be entirely true. Can your people eat human food? Zaraka nodded eagerly. We can metabolize most carbon-based proteins and carbohydrates. But I should warn you, I have no way to pay you back. Did I ask you to pay me back? Marcus handed her a sandwich. Here, start with this. Easy on your stomach. As Zaraka bit into the food, tears flowing more freely now, Zephyr noticed something remarkable happening. Other species had begun to stop and watch. Not mockingly this time, but with something approaching curiosity or even shame. Sub-Commander Kellix, however, was not finished. Human, you are in violation of Hegemony Directive 847C, which prohibits aid to enemy non-combatants without proper authorization. I could have you arrested. Marcus poured soup from his thermos into the cup and handed it to Zaraka before responding. Could you now? That's interesting. He pulled out a small datapad and began tapping on it. Let me just check something. Your ... yes. Directive 847C prohibits aid to enemy non-combatants. But here's the thing, Sub-Commander. He turned the datapad so Kellix could see it. According to Hegemony records, the Veltar War officially ended 4 months ago with the complete capitulation of all Veltar military forces, which means there are no longer any enemy non-combatants. There are only refugees. And Hegemony Directive 23A, the Refugee Protection Act, specifically guarantees the right to humanitarian aid. Kellix's mouth opened and closed several times before he found his voice. That's a technicality. Yeah, it is, Marcus agreed cheerfully. But since you want to quote regulations at me, I figured I should quote some back. Funny how these technicalities work, isn't it? A new voice joined the conversation. Indeed, it is quite amusing. Everyone turned to see Ambassador Zephyr approaching, his ceremonial robes marking him as a high-ranking diplomat. Kellix immediately straightened to attention. Ambassador Zephyr, sir, this human is. Zephyr held up one of his 4 hands. This human is providing humanitarian aid to a refugee child, which is not only legal but commendable. His 4 eyes fixed on Kellix with an expression that could freeze plasma. What concerns me more, Sub-Commander, is why a hegemony officer was attempting to prevent such aid. Kellix's face went through several color changes. Sir, I was simply... The creature is... The child, Zephyr corrected coldly, is under the protection of the refugee accords. as are all Veltar survivors. I suggest you review your training materials on humanitarian law. As Kellic slunk away, Zephyr turned to Marcus with genuine curiosity. Mr. Chun, if I may ask, why did you help her? Your species has no particular connection to the Veltar. You gain nothing from this action, and you risked official censure. Marcus looked up from where he was opening a package of cookies for Zaraka. You want the honest answer? I would appreciate it, because she's a kid, and she was hungry. Marcus shrugged as if this explained everything. Where I grew up, we had a saying, there's always room for one more at the table. Doesn't matter who they are or where they come from. If someone's hungry and you have food, you share. Zephyr found himself genuinely puzzled. But surely you must consider the political implications? The economic costs? The potential social disruption of setting such precedents? I considered that she's 14 years old and hasn't eaten in 3 days, Marcus replied. Everything else is just noise.